How we doing there, boys and girls? Manthieus here, and welcome back to another video. So we're going to continue talking for a little bit today about some of the reputation and renown adjustments that have happened on the beta. Now, I did a video about this the other day, and it got quite a bit of traction relative to what my videos usually do on the channel anyway. And a lot of people came forward with the ideas of why is this really a problem? Isn't renown and isn't reputation account wide in Dragonflight? And the truth be told is Blizzard have seemingly done a very good job of painting the picture that it is. The reality of the fact is, though, that reputation is not account-wide in Dragonflight. You have to be very, very careful how you define account-wide. Reputation is just flat out not account-wide. If you have a character that you have leveled a certain quantity and then switch to another character, you have to re-level up to the point that you were. Now, of course, any cosmetics that you had unlocked on that main character and any faction-based features you had unlocked on that character will be instantly available to you on that ult. But that doesn't change the fact that you are still going to have to level up that reputation again. A good example of this, let's say you play a mage. You're playing through the beginning of the expansion as a mage, you're leveling up, you're considering your mage as a main character, everything's going gravy. You get to the raid and your raid leader turns around and goes, you know what, for some reason we could really do with a boomkin. I remember you had that druid ult, do you mind jumping over and playing on your druid for this patch? You're like, yeah, no problem. Blizzard said account-wide reputations, no issues there. You log on to your boomkin to only find out that all of that renown that you'd gained, all of that progress you had made on your main character is not represented on your ult. If you want to go from renown 5 to renown 6, you have to first grind out the first 5 renown again on your ult character. It's not ult friendly. It's really not in any way, shape or form, and that's a big concern. I wanted to highlight this post that you'll be able to see over here. This came out a few hours ago and was meant to, at least in somewhat, address the situation regarding these reputation and renown adjustments. For clarity, the thing that they did is they stealth nerfed, and I want to point out here, this was a stealth nerf. It took people to actually find this out for themselves on the beta. This was not indicated in any patch notes. They changed the amount of reputation required to go from one renown to another, from 1,000 all the way up to 2,500. Not just a tweak, not just an adjustment. 1,000 to 1,200 might have been an adjustment. No. This is a massive rebalancing of the entire reputation system in Dragonflight in a very, very detrimental way. Their claiming was that it became harder to reward amounts of reputation that felt meaningful. So that meant that they needed a 250% increase. Something doesn't add up there, Blizzard. I can do maths, but that maths smells funny. Let's look at some of the breakdown of where these changes occurred, though. So some previously weekly world quests have now become dailies, while the frequency of some others were increased to twice per week. We don't want more dailies, Blizzard. I think I can quite safely speak for the community here when I say we don't want more dailies. Dailies have this massive negative connotation around them. They're really FOMO inducing, and it's quite clear and it's quite obvious to most players out there nowadays that dailies are aggressively used to push this routine of logging in and doing something day in, day out in World of Warcraft. It's not something we want, and Blizzard knows this, and this is the frustration for me. Blizzard knows this, and in many cases Blizzard has implemented systems to alleviate this pressure from players. Let me clarify what I mean when I say FOMO. FOMO is the fear of missing out. The first word there is fear. Fear is not necessarily a rational thing. This is why when you throw logic at it, it doesn't matter. The argument of throwing logic of that, oh, well, you don't have to do these daily activities, that's not a valid argument, because fear is not a rational emotion in the first place. The fear of missing out is a psychological thing to where you feel, well, by the nature, you feel as if you're missing out on something. It doesn't matter if you are or if you're not. The fact that Blizzard is using it as a very psychological ploy to grab people and make sure that they get embedded in this routine of logging in daily, is not something that players want in this game. And players generally, I feel, have pushed back against this quite heavily in the last few expansions. And in some scenarios, we'd seen Blizzard doing the right thing. I'll give you an example, a positive example of how Blizzard have made some subtle changes to this to reduce that sort of FOMO sort of aspect of it. Tailoring has, I think it's 2 daily cooldowns in Dragonflight. 2 daily cooldowns for Azerweave and Chronocloth bolts, I think they are. I can't remember the exact names, but a daily cooldown nonetheless. To alleviate this necessity and this need to log in and press a button or to do an activity once a day, they've implemented a charge system. You can only craft 10 of these Chronocloth bolts in a week, but you accumulate charges. So if it's 3 or 4 days between you logging in, you can log in and you can then craft 3 or 4 bolts in one go, and you can keep up and you don't ever feel as if you're missing out. You're keeping up with what the pacing of the game is without the necessity to log in daily. To summarize very quickly, I really don't think we need more dailies in the game, Blizzard. I would much prefer slightly longer, more engaging quests that lean on the emphasis of weekly things. Something that people can progress through and work towards on a weekly basis. Now, of course, if it gets to day 6 and you've not started it, well, that's a big fat you problem. If you are one of those players that tries to grind out all of this in one go, then you kind of made that decision yourself. It's not necessarily a perfect way to do it, but I think most people agree that having weekly quests that you can chip away at throughout the week are much more engaging, far more fun to deal with, and you're more likely to just enjoy the process of doing it, which it's a video game, that's kind of how you should feel, right? Anyway, their next point. We've lowered the renown level requirements of certain activities such as climbing quests, cataloguing quests, and the Siege of Dragonbane so that players hit the unlock sooner. Now, I understand only a selection of you guys out there will have access to the beta. For those who do not have access to the beta and are trying to learn what's going on vicariously through content creators such as myself, the climbing quests and the catalogue quests are 2 unlocks from one of the major factions in Dragonflight. But the reality is, it's just more world quests. They're mini, really small little mini games. The cataloguing is where you practically float down the river on a raft and you take photos of things. It's quite a fun little world quest. It's a fun little mini game. But it is still just that. It's a mini game. It's not something that you're going to log in and, beeline straight towards. You're not waiting to, you're not actively seeking out these quests. It's another world quest, and the reality is they're just making it so that you'll unlock these extra world quests that little bit quicker. That doesn't do anything to alleviate the fact that you've jacked up the reputation requirements so aggressively. The next point, this was one that was a very common argument by people in the comments on these threads. I'll leave you guys to read the comments on this for yourself. But the level up quests have been adjusted so that players are reaching max level with most of the activities unlocked. Very clever use of terminology here. They've called them level up quests. I would much prefer to call them one-time quests because they are just that. When you are leveling, not the main storyline, not the main campaign, not the MSQ, whatever terminology you want to use for it, but all of the side optional quests through leveling, their reputation rewards were never great. You could complete them, but it was kind of meh, all the same. They have increased those, to give Blizzard some credit. They have, yes, increased the reputation gains from that, meaning if you do engage in those side quest activities as you're leveling your character up, you will see more reputation for it. But there's one key thing to note here. They're one-time quests. These are quests that you can only ever complete once. And sure, even if you do every single quest on your journey to 70, you still may only land at, let's say, Renown 6 or Renown 7. There's 25 to 30 Renowns that you need to collect, each of which now take 2,500 reputation to acquire. This is really good, maybe, for that initial boost. It's top-heavy gains, right? It's very top-heavy gains. You're going to get a big spike of reputation very quickly. But But when you have burnt through all of your one-time resources for this, the grind is still going to kick in aggressively, really aggressively. If you want to be leveling up and accessing some of the end features and functionalities of these major factions, you're in for quite a journey, and it's going to be a long, painful one for some. Finally, they've indicated that the weekly rapid quest has been changed, will change slightly each week. A lot of people have been confused by the terminology, the weekly wrapper. If you've been playing in patch 9.2, this is your patterns quest, right? It's what many actually consider like the meta quest, the big quest related to that patch of content that you chip away at. It's a fill the bar quest in most cases, but you chip away at it, and there's usually a quite lucrative reward at the end of it. A big chunk of gold, the opportunity for some gear, and in many cases it comes with a nice substantial amount of reputation at the same time. The weekly rapid quest has been changed, the reputation requirement has gone up, but the overall increased reputation gain should result in a lower completion time for most players. This is bonkers. This is this just isn't true. This just isn't true. It was 2,000 reputation that was required initially, and it's been rebalanced to 3,000 on some weeks, 4,000 on others. The reality of the fact is you still are just going to have to be grinding out multiple. Well, it's a fill the bar for reputation. So if you've used up all of your one-time quests, you are going to be completing this primarily through completing yet more world quests. The emphasis on completing world quests to gain your reputation is bananas in Dragonflight. If you're not a fan of world quests, I hate to give you the bad news here, but Dragonflight is going to be very top heavy when you hit level 70 in terms of world questing. Sure, for a week or two, it'll feel really new and really fresh. But once you're 3, 4, 5 weeks into it, and you're repeating the same world quests day in, day out with no real other substantial ways of gaining reputation, I think you'll start to agree with my viewpoint on this. And the final thing that really frustrated me more than anything else was the fact that Blizzard are really going out of their way to make it practically impossible for people to test and validate any of these changes. This will not change the renown of existing test characters, so players who wish to test this will want to create a new test character. Okay, so Blizzard, you're telling me that instead of giving me the ability to create a level 70 character to test out these changes effectively, I'm going to have to create a new level 60 character, spend another 8 to 12 hours of my time leveling that character up to 70 just to validate the information you've given me here. It's really not fair on the people who are trying to test this content and are trying to put forward some. In many cases, I try to make sure that my critique is at least constructive in some way. Yeah, I was not best impressed with this little blue post, as you can probably tell. I don't want this to come across too much as if it's too ranty, but the reality of the fact is that they have dramatically hiked up the grind at the end of Dragonflight. There's no questions about it. And as a player that really, really likes to focus on leveling characters, playing with the professions, unlocking the patterns and the recipes for my professions, this is going to have a big impact on the way that I play the game. And unfortunately, dare I say it, I think this will have an impact on a lot more players than players realise. Professions, crafting is taking center stage in Dragonflight. It's going to be far more something that people care about. They've had a complete profession revamp. Much of the crafted gear is now locked deep in these renown trees. You often have to get 15, 16, 17, 19 renown deep with these factions before you unlock some of these patterns. And players are going to want those bits of crafted gear. They're either going to want the unlocks to improve their own professions, the tools, the gear that comes with the professions. They're going to want the gear. They're going to want the trinkets. They're going to want the weapons that are unlocked throughout these paths. Professions are going to play a big part, and people are going to care about this. The problem is, as I feel right now, is it's going a little bit under the radar for the very simple reason that people are conditioned to not care about professions. Professions is just that thing that those weird goblins do, right? So yeah, let's hope that Blizzard can you know, look at this in a little bit more detail and maybe understand that this level of increase is not just a tuning here. This is a serious extension to the amount of time it's going to take people to level, and I would really hope they reconsider their opinion on it. Let me know in the comments down below, boys and girls, what your thoughts are on this. I would fully understand whether you both agree or disagree with me on this. A lot of these topics are a little bit, there's a lot of friction between these. There's a lot of people with different opinions, so I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on it. If you're new around here, I do appreciate there's a lot of new people to the channel as it stands at the moment. We've had a big influx of subscribers, so welcome to everybody that's new. Hope you're enjoying the content around here, and I do pledge to you guys that it won't necessarily be all slightly more negative stuff such as this, but I did feel that I had to talk about this at least in a little bit of detail to get some public feedback, I suppose. But welcome in, thank you for subscribing, and of course, like the video if you haven't already. I've been Manthieus, boys and girls. I'll leave you there for today. Enjoy the rest of your day. If you've got beta to access to beta, jump on, have a little bit of a look at this, and draw your own conclusions. But I'll leave it there. I've been Manthieus. I'll catch you all next time, boys and girls. Peace.